Hi, everybody. It's meteorologist Joe Cioffi. There goes Kovu right behind me. He's back to normal now, which is really great. Welcome to my YouTube channel and to my YouTube live stream tonight. We've got a lot of weather going on across the Atlantic in England, and in Scotland and Wales in particular. The snow and the storm that's impacting the British Isles has really produced some widespread wintertime weather. And as you folks join on the board, we're going to go to this first. It's in the early morning hours there. It's coming up on 10, 11, 12, 1, 2:30 London time. So I'm thinking most of the folks from there are probably not going to see this if they're asleep, unless they're so excited by all the cold weather and snow that they are staying up. But I just want to show you what's happening. I actually have this a little bit further ahead of with the next system that's going to be coming in. But there is still a little bit left of this first system that came in. We have low pressure that is south of southernmost England, getting ready to move into France. So there's still a little bit of moisture there, producing some snow. And as let me get myself off the screen here so we can take a look at all of Europe here. There's going to be another wave of snow here. That's the one that's occurring tonight as that low moves into France, and on the northern fringe in England getting snow. That pulls out during early Monday, and a little bit of a break period there, and actually a weakening front sweeps through with more rain than anything else Tuesday night. But then we have another push with low pressure. You can see it that up in the upper right corner that comes out from southeastern Greenland that's pushing eastward, and that looks to bring some more snow to the British Isles on Wednesday into Thursday, until that low finally moves away and weather conditions begin to improve late in the week. So it looks like for you folks in the British Isles, you've got some more wintertime weather that you're going to be dealing with going forward. Now, of course, here in the eastern part of the United States, we had the first, widespread snow, and it was actually more than in the eastern part of the United States, because this storm system wound up bringing snows from down in South Texas and even into Southwest Texas, on up through southeastern Louisiana, southern Mississippi, Alabama, northern Georgia, up the Carolina Mountains, and then through the Northeast. We had a bit of an odd occurrence here in terms of what I thought would have happened. All the areas got snow that got some snow, and some areas got snow that looked like they were going to be out of it. Places in eastern Pennsylvania, for example, picking up the most out of this, winding up with some 6, 7, 8-inch amounts in and around Allentown and in parts of northeast PA, northwest New Jersey, which was not supposed to see too much. There were a number of 3 and 4-inch amounts there, and we had some 3, 4, 5-inch amounts through the Hudson Valley, and 5, 6, 7-inch amounts through Connecticut. Long Island and coastal New Jersey, which should have done well with this, wound up getting some snow, but wound up getting about half of what was forecast. Most of the snow amounts were on the order of 2 to 3 inches. New York City picked up between 4 and 5 inches, and there was a lot of variation with this because there was banding that occurred, which I didn't really anticipate, and we surprise, as Gomer Pyle used to say. Now we do have another system that's coming through for Tuesday, and this is going to produce snow more to the north. The low center itself is tracking through upstate New York, so that does not favor snow for downstate areas and areas to the south. Instead, there'll be a cold front that will come through here, and we'll have a shot of very cold air for Wednesday, and that's going to be followed by another weather system dropping down from the Great Lakes. This one's a little weaker, but it also moves a little further south, so this may stand the chance to bring in some snow to parts of the Northeast on Thursday, although again, it does look weak at this point. And going beyond that, there's yet another system for the weekend and into early next week that kind of lines up to the north. We actually are going to see temperatures perhaps moderate next weekend as the pattern adjusts a little bit with the upper air starting to change. You know, you can't hold on to the patterns forever. They do switch around, and sometimes they switch around to something new, or sometimes they just kind of kind of take a pause and regroup and then go back to what it was. So we don't know yet how this is going to play. And I'm going to go back one model run here because I think the 12Z model run is probably a little bit more reliable with this than the mid-cycle run. But we'll put up the upper air. By the way, usually when we have these kind of snow events, you know, they really do take a lot out of me. So the day or two after them, I'm kind of in a down mode. So as long as there's no pressing weather system coming in, I'm I kind of lay back a little bit. But let's look at this upper air pattern. So you've got this deep trough in the east, big ridge out in the west, and as we move forward, we're going to see systems rotate around the trough in the east. So here's the one for Tuesday that brings in the very cold air. And then as that pulls out, another one drops in. Now, one of the things we're going to look for is as these systems rotate and drop in, they may wind up being stronger than they're showing up now. So that's going to be something we're going to watch for, particularly here for Friday into Friday night. This trough that's in the eastern part of the United States is pretty short. It's fairly deep and extends from Hudson Bay down into the southeastern part of the United States. I think I want to be a little careful with that system for the end of the week, later Thursday night into Friday, because of the magnitude, the amplitude here, and the magnitude as well of that trough. Now, once that lifts out, looks like this is where the upper pattern changes a bit. We lose that ridge in the west. The flow becomes, more west to east, as going through weekend and into Christmas week. And then you start to see this sort of broad cyclone, upper air cyclone in Canada. It's very, very large. The circulation extends up from the Arctic regions and then comes down into the northeast, but it's not like one of these tight systems. It's very, very broad. So that is going to, that may complicate things. There probably will be energy in there somewhere, and maybe the models right now aren't exactly picking out, which one may or may do something or may not. You can see that from Wednesday into Thursday here in the east, you get a little bit of a ridge developing and some troughing out in the west, but Canada still seems to be in some sort of flux. When we move toward Christmas, we start to see the ridge in the Pacific pop back up again. So I'm suspecting that the PNA, the Pacific North America Pattern Index, is probably going to go strongly positive after dipping down to maybe neutral or slightly negative while we do this transition. But the models seem to want to bring that ridge back in the west in the longer range as we get to Christmas and beyond. So that may mean for more chances for snow before the month is over. We'll see. There's no sign of, there's no blocking. We don't see higher than normal pressures up near Greenland, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it can't get cold because, we do have a flow that's coming down from northern Canada down through central Canada, and then you've got this trough here, the way it's shown at least, to the west, just to the west of the East Coast, and you've got this big ridge that's going to want to build out in the west. So I think we're going to see, more interesting things ahead. Let's put it that way. Now, let's look. I'm going to go to snow. We're going to look at the 24-hour snowfall forecast. I'm sorry, the snowfall forecast for the next 10 days. By the way, just so you know, we have this new positive change map, and I was watching it closely during the storm in the east. It kind of had mixed results. In some places it did well, but in other places not so well. So I'm going to give this a couple of chances I'll give you the broad perspective, and you folks out in the West with that pattern relaxing a bit the way it's been, opens up the door to some snows in the northern Rockies and in the Intermountain West. Probably this is for you, it's going to be back end loaded, so it's not going to be happening during this week. But as we see the pattern moderate a bit next weekend and beyond, once the trough in the east pulls out and the ridge in the west breaks down, you're probably going to get into some snows. So figure, let's go from the 15th, 16th, on to the 20th. And some hefty snow amounts up in the northern Rockies here being shown. Also, in the east, it would tend to be more front-end loaded. So at least through this week and toward next weekend, we're seeing, quite a bit of snow being indicated, especially in and around lake effect areas, less as you go to the south, because if these systems stay weak, you're not going to get too much in the in southern Pennsylvania down through New Jersey and southern New England. But just north and west of there, the lake effect machine, which has been working quite hard today, will be working a bit of overtime. And by the way, during tonight, there might be some snow showers around for parts of areas just near or just north of New York City with a little upper air disturbance going by. Let's go back to Europe real quick just to show you the snow map for you. And this is, again, through the 10-day period, but a lot of this is front-end loaded. So why don't we, I'm going to cut this in half. We'll just go for the next 5 days. And you can see in England, we've got more snow coming on the order of some places getting an additional 10 centimeters across Northern Ireland, Wales, and on up through Northern Scotland. But just about all of the British Isles seeing some snow here. And, of course, back on the continent in Europe, Germany, the Netherlands getting quite a bit of snow, and down over into the Swiss Alps and in eastern France. So the pattern still looks very wintry for both the eastern part, particularly the Northeast and Great Lakes, and for Europe going forward for the next 5 days or so before we get a bit of a break. And I'm suspecting also that models are going to be a little volatile in the next week. So you might see attempts for pattern switches that may or may not happen. So we got to be a little careful here. I can remember a number of times last winter where models were indicating that trough in the west to break down and actually showing it, inside 7 and 6 days, and then all of a sudden it just kind of morphs back to what it was. So this is a time of year where we pay really close attention to what the overall pattern is setting up to, because sometimes we lock into these things and we could see a pattern lock in for quite a while. So let me come up on the chat board, because you guys are all writing some wonderful things and I appreciate it. So a big hello to everybody. Oh, Rad Chuck had surgery. Hope you're feeling better. Cynthia Guignautis, yes, I did see your comment there on Facebook. I'm glad you jumped over here on YouTube. I had commenting on Facebook on the live streams there is very difficult. Here on YouTube, it's so much easier because I can see it stream up on the side, and there's never any issue with that. But there always seems to be issues with Facebook, and it's frustrating because I would like to talk to everybody. Let's see. Tam Lewis, you got more than expected. Yes, a lot of places did. There was a lot, just at the point where I thought everything was going to underperform yesterday, it wound up outperforming as both on my side and on the English side in England, because it really was in some places did quite well. 7.5 inches in Allentown, Pennsylvania. I know, and I'll tell you, I did not do well with my forecast on the back end. I was not far enough west and not high enough. So since these things like to repeat, and I'm going to make, I'm going to pay attention to that error and see if I'm going to have to adjust that again. Almost gone. Robert Russo. Okay, Robert, just remind me where you are. I'm assuming that's for Long Island. Yes, Long Island wound up underperforming. That was the strange thing about yesterday, that you not only had the way everything set up, not just on the models, but in terms of the surface, would have argued that areas to the east and south of New York City would have done well, and areas north and west would have done not so well in terms of snow amounts. When I say done well, I mean get the higher amounts. Well, it not only flipped from east to west, it also flipped from north to south. Areas to the south should have gotten more snow than areas to the north. And there was also a very odd kind of a hole in between, in the sense that you had some relatively high amounts that occurred in parts of, say, southern Delaware and northeastern Virginia, but then it dipped down from southern New Jersey on up to southern New England and then picked up again. And I think part of that might have been because of the temperatures being marginal in a lot of spots. But what did happen yesterday, especially from New York City and areas north and west of New York City, the temperatures fell into the 20s, and also the intensity was there. So that caused accumulations to occur on all surfaces. Along the coastal areas, you got accumulations on grassy surfaces and colder surfaces first, and then in the areas that got into some of the heavier snow bands, then you started getting accumulation on all surfaces. And Mark Chase, you got a foot in Asheville, North Carolina. That's amazing. That really is. This was, it's not unusual to have snows. Asheville's not, Asheville is a place that does get snow in the wintertime in the Western Carolina mountains. It's not unheard of to see snows occur in the deep south. And of course, in places like San Antonio, Houston, New Orleans, those places get snow maybe once every 10 years or so. But you just, go just north of there. Snow is not an unheard of occurrence. But what is a little bit unusual is that it's happening now. You see things like this in the South usually in January into early February. But to see it now in the early part of December was very unusual. That's really early. And yes, Jason Schaefer, you are correct. The European does have a slightly different picture with what is going to be indicated for late in the week, and that's why I want to pay attention to that trough in the east at the end of this week, because that may wind up being a little bit more significant than what the GFS is indicating. Steve Franco, 2 inches in Oakdale yesterday. Yes, I also got I'm not far from you, so I had about 2.5 here north of the expressway. I've seen a lot of weird things happen over my many years out here, and a lot of those weird things have caused Long Island to get a lot of snow. This one was one that happened in reverse. So again, what I want to pay attention to now, I want to look at how, this storm played out, because we may see subsequent systems like this play out again. And one of the important takeaways, by the way, is how this set up back a couple of days ago. And if you remember, we talked about the fact that over the last 6 to 8 weeks, we've had a number of systems, a number of cold fronts that moved offshore, and it looked like they were going out. Instead, they just kind of stalled out, and weather models had a real tough time with the fact that they were backing westward from the coast. They were backing westward to the coast, and that's what this one did. So that is something we're going to look at again when we have another one of these fronts go by that winds up stalling out. So put that in the back of your mind. For the next setup, if it sets up the same way, we may have to allow for the possibility again that things are going to be further west, and as opposed to being further offshore. Franklin Taylor, 35 Friday, 65 today. I bet you the 65 feels a lot better than the 35. And now you've got very dry conditions and a red flag warning. Yeah, it does look, I believe, when I just looked, didn't look closely, but it does look pretty dry for you guys coming up. And let's see. Mago Minecraft's, what do I feel about Tuesday? Tuesday, I think, that's for central and upstate New York, interior New England, well north of 84, Route 84. those folks are going to get snow. I think for us, it's just, cold front with maybe a few rain or snow showers Monday night into Tuesday, and then it turns colder after that. And then we'll look to see what happens with the next system that wants to come along on Thursday. Alan Bacon, 67 degrees in Denver. Nice. It's cold, it's kind of cold here. I'm really looking for, wouldn't mind if it will warm up a little bit. Cynthia is traveling from Indiana to Pennsylvania on Saturday. Lake effect snow machine calming by then. Let me take a look. I'm gonna, off the top of my head, say yes, but hang on. Just loading up the map off screen, folks. It would seem so because I'm seeing, depending on what happens late Thursday and Friday, once that trough pulls out, the next weather system looks like it wants to go by to your north, to the north. So I'm thinking you're going to be okay on any drive back across the lake effect machine company. Always smiling. You just want a white Christmas for your kids. Did you see any snow where you are? Out of all of this, I'd be very curious. Let's see. 3 inches of rain. Wow. Really? That's all you've had? Normally it's about 19. That's amazing. That is bone dry. The weather is very strange and very upsetting. It can be sometimes. Ryan Ford, no, I'm not on Pix 11 News during the week. I'm on Fios 1 News. I did Pix yesterday. WPIX TV. I do that from time to time. I will be on Pix next on Christmas Day and on New Year's Eve. Those are my next steps. Oh, Nick, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you. And don't worry about the ridge in the east if it comes back. It may only be temporary if it does. So, don't get too nervous about that. Okay? And you got to be a little, you got to calm down about. I understand your passion with weather and everything, but you got to calm down and not, get bent out of shape on every model run, which may show one thing or another. You got to keep an even head about these things. Let's see. The MJO is brought up now by Anthony Orr, going into phase 7 and 8 later this month, around Christmas time and beyond. And I did see someone else bring it up also. Who else brought it up? I did see that. Always smiling, by the way. -5 in Dublin, Ireland. So it's 32, 22, 23 degrees. That's cold for you. That's very cold. You're actually colder than I am right now because I'm at 33. You're at 23 Fahrenheit, -5 Celsius. So that is some very cold air that's moved down and caused the big problems there in the UK. It's really amazing. Thanks, Nick, again for hitting Super Chat. I really appreciate it. Albedin Durovec, the dry air lowered the totals a lot. It sure did. And yet at the same time, I'm still, I'm going to wait till tomorrow when I go back and start to talk to some of my colleagues about this to try to figure out why things banded up the way they did and where they did, because of the fact that there was so much action that happened further to the west rather than near the coast, and also wound up happening to the north. The one thing I could think of is that upper trough to the west, because it phased a bit more with that southern stream system. The southern stream system didn't really stay separate anymore. It was lifted up, so maybe some of that northern stream energy got involved and caused the snow bands to get the snows to band up and band more to the west and north. And then, of course, with the dry air that was overhead Friday night into Saturday, we probably lost about 2 or 3 tenths of liquid out of that. So that reduced the snow amounts for the coastal areas. Leon wants snow squalls with the Arctic front Tuesday night and Wednesday. Not impossible. Not impossible at all. It did snow, or Alcida, that's correct. It did. The snowfall date was more mid-month, if I remember correctly, from last year. Yes, Nick, I did get it. Thank you. I got your five super chat bucks. Thank you. The snow, we got half of what was expected, but we did get the snowfall about a week, I believe, a week or so earlier than we did last year. Now it's -5, up and down, very strange. Well, you know what? It's unusually cold for you. So, the tendency is going to be for your thermometer to try to bounce up to where it's supposed to be. The air mass eventually is going to moderate. So, I mean, you're not going to be holding on to that cold air forever. But with the storminess and everything else, you're seeing a lot of changing. A lot of air warming, cooling, et cetera, et cetera. You got that cold air trying to come down. You got warm, moist air getting involved. So it makes for volatility in your temperatures. Plus, if you wind up getting any snow coming down, if it comes down with any intensity, that is also going to cool the bottom part of the atmosphere. That's right, Gary Snail. Hudson Valley, which was not supposed to get very much, particularly north and west of 287, wound up getting, in some places 4, 5, 6 inches. Which was, again, a total surprise to me. So let's see where we're going at this time. Tomorrow we'll probably maybe we'll be looking at something for the end of the week with regards to another system for the East Coast. We'll see. I saw a graphic Ethan Kerr showed sharp temperature differences in the middle layers of the atmosphere, like a front adding extra lift. Well, you know what? Maybe you're right. Maybe that may be what was the reasoning behind it. There's so much to look at with this stuff. It's very, very hard. It's time consuming. It's hugely time consuming, and you don't always look at every single parameter. You just kind of make a general, you take a good look, but it's usually a general look. And then when you start to see weird things, then you go to look deeper to find the reasons for it. So, Ethan, that certainly is plausible that, there was a sharp temperature difference, and that caused the banding the way it happened. Nick Cortese, does it look like the cold will stick around or the ridge coming back? Look, if the ridge comes back, it's going to be temporary, and I don't think it's going to be that strong. The other thing is you do have we were just starting to talk about the MJO, which is the Madden-Julian oscillation. Sounds very sinister, but basically it's a link to tropical activity in the Indian Ocean. I believe. I don't really know too much about it. A lot of people really follow it, though, and there's all these different phases, 8 phases of it. And when the Madden-Julian oscillation is in phases 7, 8, and 1, I believe that's usually when, but not always, there are exceptions. 7, 8, and 1, that usually means cold and potentially snowy in the eastern part of the United States, and it's forecast to do that later this month. Now, whether it does it later this month or not remains to be seen, but that's at least what the forecast is. Mary Atkins, Flint, Michigan, 2 inches. There should have been some lake effect going on with this next system dropping down now on Tuesday, and even on Thursday. You should be getting some more snow out of that. Let me see. That's right. Anthony, yours correct. A positive PNA, if that signature redevelops, as some models are showing, that would go against the ridge in the east, or if there is a ridge in the east, it would be very flat, and it wouldn't be anything that would cause any kind of serious warming. And you have to remember, by the way, at least from the standpoint of storminess, you need some ridging in the eastern part of the United States. Otherwise, these things go out way to the south and east. So in order for systems to move up the coast, you need a little bit of bridging. Now, it happened that there was a big, with the system this weekend, the system from yesterday, there was an upper high to the east of there, and perhaps models didn't, that ridge actually looked fairly strong to me. And I wonder whether models going into it just didn't have that ridge strong enough, and maybe that's one of the reasons why the front backed northwestward the way it did, the frontal boundary did, and we got into the snow. Because remember, models were going back and forth with that, and we were having a lot of trouble figuring it out. But again, let's remember that the trend, the pattern of the last 2 months with those things is that they do want to back up to the north and west. All right, folks, we're going to call it a night. It's been a long weekend. I want to get some sleep, and I'm sure you folks want to get some sleep as well. So check out the latest website posts on meteorologistjoecioffi.com. And I will be back tomorrow night. Figure tomorrow night probably live streaming at about 6 o'clock Eastern time, unless I wake up tomorrow morning and find some very, very exciting looking weather models, in which case I'll probably maybe sneak a live stream on tomorrow morning. But I'm thinking probably not at this point, and we'll set it for 6 o'clock Eastern time. And of course, you can also check on my Facebook page, and because I do live stream there as well. Sometimes I do it at the same, right after I do the YouTube, I'll do a Facebook, or tonight I did it reverse. I did a Facebook first and then a YouTube. So, but you can like my Facebook page. So if you don't get the live stream here, you get the live stream there. And the links to that, by the way, on my YouTube channel, if you look on the banner across the top where it's got my picture there, in the lower right corner, you should see icons to Facebook, Google+, Twitter, and my website. So that gives you easy access. Martha Gunter with your almost half a foot of snow. Enjoy it. And in the Carolinas, a beautiful state, by the way. And when it snows in western North Carolina, it's just gorgeous. All right. Have a great start to your new week, and we'll see you tomorrow.